I have a friend called Kerry who just broke a story to me. Not sure if it's petty or pro-revenge, or even malicious compliance, but here it is. Done on phone, and autocorrupt hates me. TLDR at the end. The cast, names have been changed to protect identities. Kerry, my friend, and the heroine of the story. Sharon, the secretary with loose morals. Roger, IT manager, and villain of the story. Yvonne, the CEO and company owner, also owner of 3 or so other small companies, one of which was in the same office block. Olivia, Roger's wife. Kerry works for a small IT company as a programmer and web designer along with about 8 others, including her manager and her newest colleague, Sharon the secretary. Roger is a womanizing rogue who makes frequent moderately offensive comments about women, customers and staff, like he has no brain-mouth filter. Sharon is, as Kerry puts it, an upwardly mobile skank who will literally, yes, actually, blow the boss if he buys her new shoes, so, boner for a bonus. And she has had a bonus, just not for productivity. The first Kerry knew about Sharon's behavior was late one Saturday afternoon, when everyone had left for the weekend, except Kerry as she had a project. She was beavering away at her desk in a nearly silent office when she heard a squeal. She immediately got up to investigate, and found her boss door ajar. She heard another squeal, and walked in. Finding Sharon bent over the desk with her skirt hitched up above her hips, her boss, trousers round his ankles, balls deep behind her. Yes, this is artistic license, but that's how she described it. Roger's expression indicated fury and embarrassment and he sounded to be mid-nut. Sharon had an expression like the cat that had the cream, with no pun intended. She certainly didn't seem bothered about being caught. Roger recovers his composure, puts his trousers back on and called Kerry back into the room. She hadn't stopped to watch, and threatened to fire her if she let slip what she'd seen. The instruction was tell nobody. Act like it never happened. It's important at this point to mention that this was at the height of COVID, and they were looking at the possibility of reducing staff numbers, something which fortunately never happened, but at the time of this story, nobody was sure. Kerry kept quiet. Oh, that's nice alliteration. Roger would occasionally remember that she knew what he was up to, and would give her dirty looks, but little more was said. Sharon and Roger were still having regular sex at work, and Sharon was getting the bonuses that the team should have received. She was also receiving boners, but nobody would have felt jealous had they known. One Saturday, about 6 months after the initial shock discovery, an opportunity for revenge, and technically malicious compliance, presented itself. Olivia, Roger's wife, popped in. The staff were still there, and the office was busy and a bit noisy. Roger had excused himself to his office with Sharon early as he knew his wife would be in later to meet him and wanted to get his end away before she arrived. She was early. Olivia was standing at Sharon's desk. Sharon was the secretary, after all, and Kerry saw an opportunity. She offered to help, in the absence of the secretary, and Olivia asked to see Roger. Kerry obliged. The next bit is a little vague, as Kerry skipped some details, but, apparently, she knows how to get past the lock on his office door, like the door frame is a little too big, and that's the vague bit. Kerry was able to open the door as if it wasn't locked, and hold it open for Olivia, who walked in to see her husband screwing the secretary from behind. Olivia's eruption was one of incandescent fury, which caused Roger's excuses to melt away. He was trying to explain that it wasn't what it looked like while pulling his trousers up. Sharon, meanwhile, had tried to discreetly leave, but Olivia had turned her full wrath on Sharon's direction, so Sharon excused herself by asking Roger why he'd never told her he was married. He had actually told her, but the ruse worked. Roger stared daggers at Kerry, but she told him that she'd done as he asked. She had never told anyone, and had acted as if it had never happened. Just as he'd demanded. Olivia asked what she meant, and she explained in painful detail what had been going on. With Olivia screaming blue murder at Roger, nobody heard the big boss, Yvonne, arrive. He must have heard the ruckus and come to investigate. At this point, he'd heard enough from outside the office, and Kerry was asked to leave. Roger doesn't work there anymore, and neither does Sharon. Sharon was dismissed for gross misconduct, and Roger is awaiting a court date, something about fraud or embezzlement or something. Details are sketchy here. No information about his marriage. Sorry. Kerry is still at the company, but now works as an assistant manager to a newly appointed female manager. TLDR manager screws around and threatens staff to keep it secret. Staff does exactly as told. Manager gets caught, humiliated, and fired. Edit for Cock UPS.